All right. So we are recording this Friday evening ahead of the game slated for tonight. So I want to recap what transpired last night, in which we saw two teams from the East advance to the conference semis. That being the Knicks and the Pacers, who will actually be meeting each other in the conference semis. I want to first touch on the Knicks, who ended their series against the Sixers 4-2. That series has had that old school all out dual brawl, like really low, like a low scoring, very physical grind type series. I personally enjoyed it. That was one of the better series that took place in the first round. I had that number two behind the Clippers and Mavs in the West as to what I thought would be the best series going on in the first round. But that series certainly lived up to the hype. And now we have New York advancing to the conference semis for the second year in a row. And I think it was the first time since I seen 99 or 2000. I could be wrong. But it's been that long since they actually got back to the conference semis in consecutive postseasons. So salute to everybody in New York. You guys have something to celebrate right now. Jalen Brunson was amazing. What he's actually been able to do in his career, nobody could see coming. I don't even think anybody could see it coming on the in the Knicks organization. Here we've seen him as a sidekick to Luka Doncic 2 years ago. He held it down. I think Luka missed about 2 games against the Mavs in the first round, in Jalen Brunson's last season in the with the Mavs, and he held it down in that series, and then also held it down while Luka came back and allowed it to Mavs to advance to the Western Conference Finals that year, only to lose to the champions, the eventual champions, that being the Golden State Warriors 4-1. Then he elects to move on from Dallas and sign with the New York Knicks in the offseason. And since then, he's special, man. I'm not gonna say that he's necessarily better than the likes of a Kyrie Irving or a John Morant, but I think he's right there in that group, right? His game's doesn't pop out to anybody with the athleticism or the flair that those guys possess. But in terms of effectiveness, he is right there with them, in my opinion. That guy is just amazing in what he's doing. And even last night, what he was doing, like putting his team on his back, hitting some clutch shots in the fourth quarter, getting to his spots when he wanted to, being smart, know what I'm saying? Like feeling the defender on him and able to lure the defender into committing a foul. You know what I'm saying? And then when the defense was collapsed, he had the faith in his guys like a Josh Hart to hit a clutch three. So they got something special in New York, and there's something that they can build off with that foundational piece in Jalen Brunson. I don't necessarily rather agree with the likes of Charles Oakley in saying that he's, I think, like the best Knick or the most important Knick since Bernard King. I mean, you lived in the Patrick Ewing era? He's a Hall of Famer, one of the 10 best centers of all time. Led the Knicks to a NBA Finals and went 7 games going head to head with a top 5 center and Hakeem Olajuwon. So let's just pump the brakes there. But Jalen Brunson is special, and what he's doing is amazing in that city. And they have a really, really good crew around him. Like, the Villanova guys with DiVincenzo and Josh Hart, and then Anunoby, who was solid last night and a great pickup for the Knicks. And I believe that was at the trade deadline. I know it was a trade, but I can't remember what the trade deadline lot. But that was a great pickup for them right there. And now they're moving on to play the Pacers in the conference semis, and that is going to be I think it's going to be a great series. I see a lot of those teams. Those teams are young, feisty. They grind it out. You got a solid defense going up against an explosive offense in the Indiana Pacers. So that should make for a great bout that we're going to see. Now, I want to touch on the Philadelphia 76ers, who now, again, they fell short of expectations, certainly, that they had upon themselves. And you can point to the fact that Joel Embiid was dealing with a significant injury, and he missed a lot of time in the season. Otherwise, they probably would have been a top 2 or 3 team in the conference, because they were certainly trending that way while he was playing out of his mind and was the league MVP up until he got hurt. He would have been back-to-back league MVP if he was able to play 65 games. I have no doubt about that. But we have to face the facts that Joel Embiid now has missed he is the only league MVP in NBA history never to play in a conference finals. He has not made a deep run ever. Now you can point to the lack of a complimentary co-star. That Ben Simmons was there for a little bit, well, for a long time. Then they elected to move off of him. Then you had James Harden there, who was really starting to be on the downside of his career. Now you got a young dynamic player in Tyrese Maxey. But what is that? But yeah, you definitely have something to work with there. But it's just Embiid just gets hurt at the wrong time. I mean, he was still playing out of his mind in this series, but like last night, you just seen him in the fourth quarter. He really didn't have anything. It looked like he was out of conditioning, and like the knee injury was just wearing on him. Because and again, I give him credit for playing out there and doing what he can do and trying to help propel his team to advance to the conference semis. But it's just like every single season he's just hurt. I mean, you can even see like he wasn't necessarily trying to close out hard on defenders when they were trying to lure him away from the basket. And if they were able, and if he was able to bite, they were able to go past him. And then that would either lead to a kick out or a finish at the rim. So, yeah, I mean, this is just tough for the Philadelphia 76ers. But I know they have a lot of cap room next season because, thank goodness for them, Tyrese Maxey, his money comes off the books next year. And I'm sure that they cannot wait to move on from him because he had a donut being a max player, have a max contract, and to put up a donut in an elimination game at home. It's uncalled for, man. It's just not. You can't. There's nothing you can do to vouch for that type of performance. I know he signed his deal back in 2019, 5 years, 180. So that comes off the book. So it's safe to say he's not coming back to Philadelphia. Fans don't want him back. The organization certainly doesn't want him back. But so that does leave some room to bring another player in. I've heard Paul George a few times, and today I saw a post that they might be interested in trying to get Jimmy Butler back, who's like trying to seek max extension from the Heat. But hey, if they can get Jimmy Butler back with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, you have something really solid there. But it's just sad. And Embiid is going to be he is going to go down as a Hall of Famer. You can't even doubt that, right? He's a Hall of Famer. If his career ended today, knock on wood, he is a Hall of Famer. He has a league MVP, scoring titles. He's arguably, I don't want to say he's the most skilled center of all time because that just does a disservice to those who came before who don't have the advantage of having the game being played as it is today. Because if it was up to me, my belief is that if Akeem Olajuwon was in this era, he can duplicate what Joel Embiid does. He would be able to hit the three. He'd be able to handle on the perimeter, hit pull-up shots. But the game's just played a lot different. So I don't want to say he's necessarily the most skilled center of all time, but he's certainly in the conversation. But I don't think he'll ever be a top 5 center of all time. I think that is pretty much solidified, although Nikola Jokic may have something to say about that when his career is all said and done. He might get into the top 5. He's like right out on the cusp for me. But he certainly can get in there at any time, or rather when his career's up. Or even the next couple of years. Certainly if he wins a championship this year, you could make a great case that he's a top 5 center of all time if the Nuggets actually do pull it off and repeat. But yeah, Joel Embiid, man, and now I think he's gonna play. Well, yeah, he is scheduled to play for the USA in the Olympics. If I'm the Philadelphia 76ers, I don't want him to play. I don't know if they can do anything that would stop him from participating in the Olympic games this summer. But I don't think that I would want him to play in the Olympic Games just because of what has transpired throughout his history. We want to make sure that by training camp that he is ready to go and that he is necessarily 100% starting the training camp. But then again, you can say that if he does play in the Olympics, hey, he may be able to be in relatively good shape heading into training camp. Then he can work on that during training camp and then be in top shape heading into the season, because I do think Embiid has to lose a little weight too as well. I just feel like he's carrying a little bit too much weight on those knees, and I think that possibly can be a reason why he's having all those lower extremity injuries that he's been dealing with for the vast majority of his career. But yeah, Philadelphia 76ers are gone, and the Pacers yesterday sent home the Milwaukee Bucks. Pacers, that series, it was just a bad matchup to begin with. For the Milwaukee Bucks, that team has exposed them virtually this entire season. They exposed them for their lack of athleticism, lack of speed, and that was what that I saw transpire last night. I mean, these guys are just like really like closing out hard on defense, out on transition, getting quality shots to get into the basket, and the Bucks just really couldn't do anything to disrupt that. They don't have the personnel. Even if Giannis played, I think that this series possibly could have went in the Pacers' favor. But then you couple that with Dame Lillard missing some time due to an Achilles injury. Now, we did play last night, but Dame didn't necessarily look. He didn't look right, man. It looked like he was like hesitant, a little timid to like try to make a move, get to the basket, settling for a lot of jumpers. But hey, he knew his team needed them, and they needed to. If they had any chance of getting that series back to Milwaukee for a Game 7, but that didn't happen. Pacers ended up winning in 6 games. The bench was just atrocious for the Bucks. My goodness, was scored like 4 points, I believe they outscored by 22. The Pacers were up like plus 22 bench scoring. That's atrocious. And then now the Bucks are gonna have to do a lot now, I think. Well, I don't know what they have. They don't have necessarily room to really improve this team because they're just so. They give up a lot of assets over the last few seasons. Whether it was getting Drew Holiday or getting Jay Crowder, they gave up a lot of assets, and then getting Damian Lillard. How did I leave him out there? Getting Damian Lillard. They don't really have a lot of room to make significant upgrades to that team. But yeah, I mean, they're old. I mean, outside of Giannis, that team, I think Giannis he's either 30 or about to be 30. So he's gonna get up there as well. Dame Lillard's like 33. Brook Lopez like 35, 36. Middleton's like 33, 34. This isn't a young team, is what I'm trying to say. So they need to. It's tough. I don't know what moves they can make, but this team to compete with the likes of like the Celtics and the Sixers, I think. Hey, the Knicks are coming too. Who knows what they'll be able to do in the next season or two, and trying to upgrade that team. They're gonna have to get more athletic on the perimeter and faster as well, and they're gonna have to really upgrade the 2-guard spot, man. The whole season I was looking when they were starting when they're starting Mike Beasley, that's such a small backcourt. Neither him nor Lillard are defenders. So the teams can just take advantage of that, and then they elected to insert Pat Beverly into the starting lineup as opposed to Beasley, and it was like, is that really that much better? Does that make a real difference? Is that going to be a game changer there? Pat Beverly at this point of his career, and also to getting killed right now, and rightfully so, for his actions towards that member of the media who he didn't want to have interview him because she had not subscribed to his podcast yet. Sounds kind of, definitely does sound juvenile, but maybe there is a backstory to that, but still unacceptable. And then of course, last night throwing a basketball at a Pacers fan, so he should be punished severely, I would say. And I would expect that to happen, that the league's going to make an example of him because of that. Yeah, so I don't know what they're going to do, Milwaukee going to do, but I'm sure they know what they have to do. And like I said, they have to upgrade the athleticism on the perimeter, but I don't know how they're going to go about it. But we shall see. We have the whole summer. I can't wait to see the moves that are going to be made with that team, along with other teams. Doc Rivers, hey, I'm somebody who's been very critical of Doc Rivers. He's blown multiple 3.1 leads in the postseason, multiple 3-2 leads in the postseason as well. Hasn't won a championship since 2008. with the Boston Celtics. Doc I think, has underperformed. That might be an understatement as well too. He has not lived up to the billing. Wasn't he? And he was announced as the top 15 coach of all time, which I thought was ridiculous. I would have put Rick Carlisle over him, but that's just me. But anyways, Doc Rivers, I think, is going to be safe this season, and I think that would be the right move. I've seen some people that I know that think that the Bucks are going to move on from him in the offseason, rather. I don't see this going to happen. They're already paying Budenholzer and Adrian Griffin as well, so they're not going to want to pay another coach to not actually coach the team. They're going to stick it out with him, but he's going to have the luxury of having a full training camp with Giannis and Dame Lillard. He'll probably have his input on the coaching staff, and just kind of like get a feel of how Giannis and Dame play together, and how to maximize both of them as a duo. Because that was, I think, was kind of strange, because a lot of people just felt, me included, that once that trade happened, this team is going to be at minimum conference finals bound, and that was not the case that was not looking like that was going to be the case for most of the season. Assuming they elected to move off of Adrian Griffin after a 30-13 start. That defense just wasn't clicking at all, and Dame and Giannis just couldn't play well together. The pick and roll game just wasn't there. I thought that they were going to be like probably the deadliest pick and roll duo outside of Murray and Jokic. But that wasn't the case. I don't know why. And I do see some people on, some analysts and some reporters as well, that mentioned that, hey, this is the first time that Dame Lillard's played with somebody who is undoubtedly better than him in the NBA. So that's what he's been in the league for 12, 13 seasons. So that is an adjustment in itself, just being like second fiddle, just to say. So, hey, who knows? Maybe they just needed a season to get familiar with one another, and then you can really get the most out of them in the following season. So that would be something that's going to be interesting to see. All right, so moving on to tomorrow night. Tomorrow, I haven't seen what time the game's at. It was to be announced for a while. We're going to have a big showdown in the Western Conference with the Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. And I cannot wait for this game. Two of the better teams in the Western Conference, two of the top three teams in terms of standings. The Minnesota Timberwolves are fresh off a sweep of the Phoenix Suns, while the Denver Nuggets gave the Lakers a gentleman's sweep. Although it was a gentleman's sweep, I would say that was one of the hardest gentleman's sweeps that I've ever seen in league history. Those games went down to the wire. Essentially, every game was really, it could have went either way within the last 8 to 10 minutes of the ball game. So there was no blowouts. But hey, a gentleman's sweep is a gentleman's sweep. Now these teams, I'm just trying to see if there is any time at which they're going to play tomorrow. All right, so we have them at 7 p.m. tomorrow. The only game slated for tomorrow, the Wolves and the Nuggets. These two teams didn't meet last year in the first round, in which Denver won 4-1 and wound up winning the NBA championship for the first time in franchise history. This team has improved a lot since then. That was a great matchup for them. It helped with the maturation of the team as a whole, and they are really clicking on all cylinders right now. While I do see a world where this series can be an all-out slugfest, can go 7 games, be tooth and nails. Part of me is a little concerned that we, as basketball fans, are, I don't want to say overrating the Timberwolves, but we're just looking at the Timberwolves through the prism of sweeping a Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal team. that team was poorly constructed. I thought that once they elected a trade for Bradley Beal in the offseason, that was the downfall of that team because with the new rules, when the new salary cap rules, they are trying to get away from having big threes. Um, Two max players on the team, fine. Three max players, they don't want that anymore. So the Suns, with a new owner and Matt Ishbia, elected to build a team around three max players. So when you do that, it's going to be very, very hard to put the complementary pieces around them and to have them excel at the highest level. They couldn't do that, and they didn't have a point guard at all. And I felt that while I was really impressed with Rudy Gobert with actually being able to stay on the floor and not being taken out in critical moment because he is not able to guard on the perimeter, a point guard, I think that might be a reason why is because the Suns don't have a real point guard. They don't have somebody who can like slow down the offense, who can get those guys great shots, and instead they're having to take difficult shots and wade deep into the shot clock. So I that's why I'm like, you know what? I don't necessarily think that this is going to be a slugfest. This could really be just Denver winning in convincingly, kind of like what happened last year. Now, a lot of players on the Denver Nuggets did say last season that Minnesota was the most difficult matchup, and it makes sense. They have a team with big bodies that you can throw at at Nikola Jokic, give him multiple looks, whether it's Rudy Gobert or Anthony Towns or Naz Reid. They have big bodies to help. You can never stop Nikola Jokic, but you can disrupt them, try to take them off rhythm, which is a lot easier said than done, but it could possibly be done. Now, Jamal Murray also is dealing with a calf strain. He was actually like a game time decision going into Monday night in Game 5, but he elected to play and hit the game winner, another game winner in the first round. But he does have 5 days off, so that is going to be crucial for the Denver Nuggets, and I think that they can really capitalize off that as well. KCP also did hurt his ankle in that game as well, but he came back in. So again, 5 days off. That's going to bode well for him as well. I mentioned I don't see anybody beating the Denver Nuggets, and I still feel that way. Anthony Edwards, great young talent. This is just now like his quote unquote coming out party. He put on a show against the Suns in round 1. And I think that he can duplicate that in round 2. It's going to be a little difficult now because, they had the likes of Michael Porter Jr., Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Peyton Watson that they can throw at him. Way better defenders that they have at their disposal, the Nuggets do, than the Suns. But Ant-Man is going to come up. He's just too hungry. He has that old school soul in terms of that. Just being too hungry, not wanting to necessarily like make friends in the basketball court, and then looks at everybody as competition, looks at his opponents as food. I see a world where he is going to just go off in the series. He may have a game or two where he struggles, shoots bad from the floor. But the thing about Anthony Edwards is that even if he's struggling from the floor, he tries to find another way to impact the game, whether it's being like, playing tenacious defense or, just trying to get others involved in his team. It doesn't faze him. He doesn't fade away. He's going to find a way to be impactful in a game, whether he has it going or not. So that's something that you really got to like if you're a Minnesota Timberwolves fan. And again, in their veteran leadership of Mike Conley. This guy came in the same year as Kevin Durant, Al Horford, still contributing to a team, a young team. He is like the leader of that team, I'd say. He's been there. He's been through all the battles and everything, and he's still very, very effective. A true point guard. One of the most underrated players I felt like in the NBA over the past 15, 20 years. So that is going to be pivotal as well. And again, and Jaden McDaniels as well too. If he has it going, if he can shoot the ball relatively well from the season with the looks that he can get, hey, that's going to tip the scale in the Wolves' favor. But at the end of the day, I just see that the Denver Nuggets are going to be too much for the Wolves to handle. I have the Denver Nuggets in. I got them in 6. It went 5 last year. I think the Wolves can get one more this season. 6. No 7 games for Denver. Too good. They execute. The camaraderie that they have with one another. They are like the modern day San Antonio Spurs or the Golden State Warriors of the strength in numbers era. Just too good. All right. So, and tonight we have a couple of games on. The Game 5 between the Mavericks, or rather, I'm sorry, Game 6 between the Clippers and Mavericks, in which the Mavs are leading 3-2. I picked the Mavericks to end that series in 6 heading into the playoffs, and I think that is going to happen tonight. Luka Doncic smells food. This is a rival that he has not yet beat in the NBA playoffs. They're up 2-0 against him right now in the Kawhi PG era, and I think that it ends tonight. The Kawhi not being available again, but we shouldn't be surprised because it is Kawhi Leonard. He has a history of being injured, especially in more recent years in crucial moments in the season, postseason. It's just brutal. And James Harden, who was just atrocious in Game 5, is looking like the playoff Harden that a lot of people know, that are accustomed to throughout the majority of his career, whether it's in the finals with OKC or his time spent in Houston or even last year in Philly. He just finds a way to fade in big moments, and I can see that transpiring again tonight. Might not be as bad as he was on Friday, rather in Game 5, because he was really bad in Game 5. But I see him being a detriment to this team nonetheless. Russell Westbrook has been atrocious the last few games. A guy who I was really had praise for being a very impactful player on the Clippers after what happened to him in L.A. with the Lakers, rather, because I felt like it wasn't his fault. It was a bad situation, even though he should have never agreed to go to that team in the first place based on the talent that was already there and the pieces that were there. I just felt like it didn't fit, and I was right. So he did end up got over to the Clippers, and he was just being that Energizer Bunny, just playing hard, moving to the bench in favor of Harden, knowing that this team would be best if James Harden was starting and he would come off the bench and be that spark plug that the team needed. But he's just been a disaster so far, and he's just now he's reverting back to the Harden that we kind of knew and that we kind of saw with the Lakers, and I didn't think that was going to happen. And again, just Kawhi Leonard being out too, man. It's tough. This guy he's going to be one of the hardest players to evaluate, I think, when his career is all said and done, because we all know he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, he was just named top 75 of all time. Guy has 2 championships, 2 Finals MVP. I think 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. 1 I know he definitely has, maybe 2. So he's definitely a Hall of Famer. But where is he going to rank on the all time list? Top 20? I don't know. I don't think that he's played enough or been available enough to really crack the top 20. Probably the top 30, you have to put him in solely off the resume and the accolades that he's received throughout his career. But he would have been great for this series and great for the Clippers and potentially winning the series. And I know he signed that extension with the Clippers. Ballmer, I don't know, man. Great player, but I know you need a face for your franchise when you move into the new arena next season down in Inglewood. But I don't know. It's kind of tough. And this team, they can't just run it back if they lose tonight. They're gonna have to make some changes. I don't know. Do they bring Harden back? Do they bring Russ back? I don't think they bring back both. There's no way in hell they can bring back both if they lose tonight, and if they lose convincingly, which I think is gonna happen. They're gonna have to do something. I know that they're probably gonna want to keep Paul George. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I saw him being linked to the teams, a team like the Sixers, and I believe I also saw him linked to the Magic as well. PG is a prototypical player in today's NBA, so I can see how a lot of teams would want him on their roster. But yeah, but I would think that the Clippers want him too as well. So that is going to be interesting to see what transpires there. And then, of course, we have the Magic and the Cavs tonight in Game 6. Cavs are up 3-2. This series I wasn't really looking forward to. As I mentioned previously in my last episode, I thought it was the weakest series. And I was, well, it's not really the weakest series because they did go 6 games. We did see a sweep, but it's not. But you factor in star power, then you could probably say that this is the weakest series. The series has been a dogfight. Orlando looked like a different team at home with that stellar defense, and Ben Charo put on a show. Cleveland was able to secure the victory in Game 5. I thought that this series would be over in 6 in favor of the Cavs. I wouldn't be surprised if we win 7, if we have a 7-game series, and these guys are just going to duel it out, and the winner gets the almighty Boston Celtics in round 2. I can see this being a dogfight heading into Game 7 and down to the wire. But I think I would just stick with my pick and say that the Cavs find a way to pull it out tonight. They know what's on the line, and Spider's going to come through and in a major way, and they are going to win that series. So I see here that earlier today, or rather just a few hours, probably about the last hour or two, Darvin Ham has gotten relieved of his duty as head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes, after losing to the Nuggets back-to-back years, he is gone. Now, I know a lot of people want to come to Darvin Ham's defense saying that he wasn't given a fair shot. The roster was poorly constructed, which all may be true. But at the same time, I don't think that he necessarily should get the benefit of the doubt, as opposed to, say, a Frank Vogel, who we've seen win at a high level in Indiana, and win at a high level with the Lakers when they won the championship in the bubble. And because a lot of people are coming at him now, as they are suggesting that he is going to be fired as coach of the Suns. Now, coming to his defense, in my opinion, justifiable because of his track record and his resume. Darvin Ham doesn't have that resume. Now, I'm not saying Darvin Ham is a bad coach. I think that he is a coach that has a lot of potential, and he can do a lot. But at the same time, it's the Lakers, the most popular franchise in basketball, and arguably the most popular franchise in all the North American sports. The only other franchises that can compete is the Cowboys and the Yankees when it comes to popularity. And of course, you're coaching LeBron James, still the face of the NBA today. While he may not be the best player, as you seen, like he just finished up year 21, he's still the face of the league and one of the greatest players to ever play the game, top 3 in a lot of people's minds. And then I guess the GOAT, right? So when you factor all that in, there's a lot of expectations that comes with being the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, and he just didn't meet that. I don't think it's necessarily fair, but I know that this is reality. Now, yes, he did get to the conference finals last year after being in a play-in, and he did get his team out of, and Lakers did get out of the play-in and into the first round, and they drew the Denver Nuggets, who, again, most likely, in a lot of people's minds, will be the champions again this year. So I don't think that he's going to have I don't think he's going to have a hard time getting another chance, but I think that it's best if he goes to a team that has low expectations, small market, low expectation team, a team that's trying to rebuild. I think that that's going to go a long way with Darvin Ham proving his worth as a coach in this league. I see a lot of potential in him. But when Anthony Davis started, calling him out and post game at the post game press conference, you just knew that his time in LA was over. And I think Jeannie Buss and they said a few weeks before, "Oh, they're sticking with Darvin Ham. He's their coach." BS. We all knew that. We all knew that he wasn't going to be the coach because the players just weren't responding to him for whatever reason. Maybe his style of coaching just didn't mesh with theirs. So it sucks. Now I do see that there are some coaches that are possible candidates for the Lakers heading into next season. I'm seeing Budenholzer, Kenny Atkinson, JJ Redick, and Tyrone Lue. But from what I last seen earlier today, the Clippers want to extend him. They don't want to let him go. So that is not looking realistic. I believe Woj said that it's not looking realistic due to that matter. So it's going to be interesting to see who the Lakers go with. Are they going to want to go with JJ Redick, go that route again? Well, not necessarily that route again, because at least Darvin Ham had coaching experience in the NBA. He was on the head coach. He was on the coaching staff of the Milwaukee Bucks when they won the championship post bubble. So he has some experience. He's been around. He's been in the coaching staff. JJ hasn't done it already. So do they want to go that route, or do they want what LeBron wants? Because they are looking to extend LeBron James. And if LeBron wants JJ, and JJ has a great basketball mind. I'm not knocking on him at all. Great basketball mind. I just a little cautious, especially me being a Lakers fan, a little cautious about getting a coach who has not coached before at all on an NBA level. But again, you listen to JJ's podcast, you hear him on First Take. He's a brilliant basketball mind. One of my favorite people that I listen to. In terms of basketball talk, very knowledgeable. So, but I don't know if that's going to translate to coaching. It could, but again, listen to the Lakers. A lot of expectations, whether it's fair or not. A lot of expectations come with being a coach for the purple and gold. Budenholzer, he could be a particular good choice as well. He's had success. Multiple 60-game win seasons, whether it was with the Hawks and with the Bucks, and again won a championship with Giannis and crew. But he's just very stubborn. It's always his way in terms of like drop coverage and not electing to switch off. Like one of the reasons why he got fired was because he didn't want to let Giannis, the best player on the team, take on Jimmy Butler when Jimmy was scorching the Bucks and scorching Drew Holiday. He didn't want to let Giannis guard him. It's crazy, right? So that should be looked at as well. Do you really want a coach like that who's like really stubborn and doesn't want to change his philosophy, given certain like matchups and everything? And how's that going to mess with LeBron? If LeBron doesn't really vibe with him in terms of what he's electing to do on defense and everything. That's probably going to turn LeBron off. So I don't know. I don't really see that being a real possibility. But hey, who knows? So yeah, that's all the NBA talk I got for you right now.